few of the things today that I didn't get to in the key I wanted to talk you through. Of course, you can look at the link online or just kind of look at the general answers on here. That's fine. But we stopped with number 2, and we talked about this being a perpendicular bisector, so that 2x minus 3 equals x plus 5, and then you solve for x. That was the first portion of this. If you need help with that solving, I can certainly help you through that as well. But the biggest thing would be subtracting x from both sides. And then you'd have x minus 2 equals 5, and then add 2 to both sides. So you should get x equals 7. And then AC is a perpendicular bisector. That's the last question. Says describe the relationship between AC and BD. AC is the perpendicular bisector of BD. That's the relationship between those two. Okay, that, and then we kind of held up on 3. We started filling in whenever you get the whole median. You want to make sure you find the third, because that's the short piece. That ends up directly answering the question, this what's ED? Well, by just doing that, you found ED. That's the short piece of BD that's given there. But in general, like AG is a whole median. It goes all the way across here. The third of that, oh, I got cut off there for seconds. I don't know what part you heard, but yes, you get the whole median there. Then you want to take a third of it, and that'll give you the short piece. Happens in AG as well. If you get the third of that, you get the short piece 5 that you see right there. So let me clear that back up again. But that's helpful information. The answer to the ED is 4 for number 3. The vertices, this drawing coordinate system thing, we did that on the quiz. You guys did really well. Just if I say centroid, that means medians. So whatever triangle we draw with those coordinates, you're going to go midpoint, opposite vertex, midpoint, opposite vertex, midpoint, opposite vertex. That's what a centroid is, medians, starting at the midpoint, opposite vertex. And then you're going to give me the coordinates of that centroid as best you can. And then finally, 5 it says PO is an angle bisector, so you want to set those equal, solve for x. Then the work is there. The number 6 isn't so bad. The only thing you need to do for number 6 is that with that 165 that's given and the exterior angle there, you can find the interior angle of 15. That's a habit you should have anyway. If you see those linear pair angles, find the internal angle of 15. Then if this is 70 up top here, that leaves you 95 for this lower corner here. Remember, they all have to add to 180, so a lot of you tend to do, we do 70 plus 15 and subtract that from 180 to get this 95. So once I have those angles, then you can start comparing. It says compare the sides where x and z are. So we know that because 95 is across from this side and 15 is across from this side here, the bigger angle 95 would mean the side 2x plus 3 is bigger than x over 5, the shorter side across from the shorter angle. Okay, so you kind of have a correspond, hey, 95 is bigger than 15, therefore 2 times z plus 3 is bigger than x over 5. Kids are having some fun, you can hear in the background. So 7, if you get the angle of the sides in angles in order, you just look at the sides across the way. So smallest angle is I, because it's across from the smallest side, HG. And the largest side is G, because our angle is G, because it's across from the longest side, 3. And that's the story on that. And then down below, you can just barely see 8 here. The sides in order are QP, PR, QR, based on the angles that are across the way from that. And so then you want to look down here at number 9, if you want to take a peek. It says, what's the shortest segment overall? Well, if you work from right to left here, 55 degrees in the right triangle, that's this one you see right there, points to the shortest side, YW. However, that's the shortest side in YW, but if you look at the shortest side in the triangle next door, which is actually pointing to XY, well, in a comparison of those two sides, YW is the shortest on the right triangle, but XY is the shortest on the left triangle. If you follow the flow of it, you're going to say, all right, we got the smallest one, YW, from left to right here. And even in comparison to that side XY is even smaller, because 55 in the left angle is also the smallest angle. They do share a side. YW is a shared side between these two. Okay, so YW is a shared side. So if YW is the smallest on the right-hand triangle, if you look over on the left-hand triangle, it's not the smallest. XY is the smallest on the left-hand triangle, but it also has YW as one of its sides. So overall, XY happens to be one of the smallest. So it's kind of a comparison of that YW side. Smallest on the right triangle is YW, but YW, which is a side as is xy as a side on that left triangle. If you had to compare those two, xy wins as the smallest because it's across from its smallest angle on the left triangle, 55. That question's tricky. I think this is tough. So if you think that's tough, logically you want to work your way. Why is it that xy is smaller than yw? And you have to think, I'm comparing that on the left-hand triangle, and xy is definitely smaller. All right, to the next page. Okay, and then I did take a look at the sub's notes, and she did talk to you guys about this stuff. I took a look at what she wrote, and she definitely addressed this with you. The range of values of x, if I have sides of 10 and 23, the biggest that it can be is the sum of those two sides, so 10 plus 23, 33. So your x has to be something smaller than 33. It can't be any bigger than that. And the smallest it can be is 13, or it has to be actually, it can't be 13, because if you laid them together, the difference of the two sides is a length that can't happen. So here's the lower limit is 13, the difference of the two. The upper limit is the sum of the two sides, 33. So x is somewhere between those, 13 and 33. So when you get to this type of problem, you're going to say, all right, what's the sum of the two sides? That's your upper bound. Difference of the two sides? That's your lower bound. And say x is somewhere between those two values. 14. If I get a median, you can always mark the congruence that I have in the picture down here. And TQ is the whole length with two sixes together. That's why it's 12. 15, angle bisect, you set these two guys equal. And you want to mark when BD bisects something, you want to go in there and mark the congruence. That would be a really good idea. But setting them equal, solving carefully, you get x equals 34. And then the inequality to compare these. Again, this one's tough in number 16. Look how it's labeled. You got to be careful. 20 degrees is actually this angle. Let me show you the angle. I'm going to color it in for you. The angle right here is the 20-degree angle. And then the angle right here is the 23-degree angle. So when you're comparing those, you have to be careful which one's which. So the 20-degree angle is across from EF, and that's smaller than the 23-degree angle, which is across from GH. So the order is EF less than GH for the sides. Lastly, as you compare I think it's pretty self-explanatory on number 17, but that's the end. You do want to send me messages with any other questions you have. Have a good night, you guys.